guys, welcome to my channel and welcome to my newest video. As you can see, I am kind of changing things up a little bit. I thought instead of just being a disembodied voice, I would come in front of the camera and explain a little bit about the piece that we'll be working on today. I had this piece, I've had it for about 7 months. I got it last spring and it sat in my storage unit. It was really heavy and I didn't really know what to do with it at the time. So I finally took it out of my storage unit about 2 months ago, and then I kept going back and forth, whether do I paint it, do I leave it the way it was, because this buffet is in amazing condition. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it is from 1880 to early 1905. It is quarter sawn oak, or as a lot of people call it, tiger's oak, and there's no veneer. It is completely solid wood. Those reasons are kind of why I hesitated to paint it. There is a lot of people who love tiger's oak, not so much in my area, but it is difficult to find some of these pieces in such good condition. Now, my piece does not have the ornate back mirror that generally would come with this piece, and there was a little support area that I had to replace, but I was able to find a wood that had a stain that matched it perfectly. So had I decided to just leave it stained, it would have been fine. It would have looked great, and everything would have been probably way easier and not as entertaining as a video. So I decided to paint it mainly because of the carvings in this piece. If you look at the original, which I'll hopefully have it somewhere around my head at some point, if you look at the original, it has amazing carvings, but they are difficult to see because you have so much wood grain that kind of competes for your eye. So I thought in order to bring those details out, the parts that I personally fell in love with when I saw this at the auction, I wanted to bring those out, so I had to paint. And as a lot of artists out there know, when you get an idea and an inspiration in your head, you kind of do it or it drives you crazy. So I had an inspiration for this piece and I had to do it. So, saying that, for those of you who love the original and are cringing at the fact that I painted over such a pretty piece, don't worry. Every step I took, I thought it all out. I was meticulous in thinking, what if someone wants to bring this back to its original quarter sawn oak look? So I did not sand it. If I would have sanded it, the paint would have seeped into the wood grain and would have stained it, and you never could get this original look back. I mean, you possibly could, but it'd be a lot more difficult, and it'd just be a disaster for the restorer, and you'd probably pay a lot of money to do it. So I used Dixie Belle Slick Stick, which is a bonding agent for chalk paints. I chose Dixie Belle paints and other chalk paints to put on top because they're easier to take off than latex or oil paints. And for the hardware, since I wanted to change it from brass to silver, I used Rub and Buff instead of a spray paint, because spray paint you'd have to strip it. It'd be very difficult to get into all those nooks and crannies, whereas Rub and Buff, you just put it over the surface, and if you want to take it off, you just have to get a pad or a cloth of some sort, dip it in some mineral spirits, and you can very easily rub off the finish. So this piece will be very easy to restore back to its glory in 20, 50, 100 years if people would like to have this look again. And I did keep the top panels, the top wood, its original finish. I just put a light waxing of furniture wax over it to kind of bring out some of its shine and give it a little character, because in my opinion that was the best wood. Like, it has a beautiful grain, it looks amazing, and yeah, with that little bit of background, let's get into the video. I'm back. I forgot to say, If you like this video and want to see more of the projects that I come up with, then please hit the subscribe button. If you found the tips, tricks, and techniques in here helpful, then give me a thumbs up. If you want to see something in the future, if you have questions, maybe I didn't get in enough detail on what I was doing, or there wasn't a clear angle because I do have my kids helping me and sometimes they kind of get into the camera a little bit, then just hit me a comment and I will try and explain it better for you. Or I will do a better, more in-depth job on that technique in a later video. Alright, thanks for watching, and stay tuned all the way to the very end because I am going to have some outtakes of what my children decided to do while I was working and the camera was rolling. Some of them are pretty darn funny. Alright, thanks for watching.
The first step of every project is getting rid of grease and oils. I use Crud Cutter Kitchen Degreaser. Once dry, I move on to painting one coat of Dixie Belle's Slick Stick, which is a bonding agent that allows my paint to adhere better to the unsanded wood. I then apply 2 coats of Dixie Belle paint in Hurricane Gray. I allow 24 hours in between each coat due to the really cool temperatures in my garage. At this time when I was painting, it was roughly around 40 to 49 degrees in my garage, so the paint took a little extra time drying. In the more detailed area, I use my angled brush, which allows me to get deeper into the cracks and crannies. Here I'm starting to dry brush on some black acrylic. As the name suggests, you use very little paint and you kind of dab it on the tips of the brush and then you wipe it off on a plate or a napkin, and then you just slowly build up the color. This took me about 3 passes in all the different areas to get the color to really be able to be noticed. As you can see, there are some areas where I got a little too much and it got a little streaky. I was okay with that. It was part of the look I was going for. For this part, I am using a chip brush. Ultimately, I wanted an ombre effect on this dresser, so I am only going up with the black about halfway, and I'm making it a very uneven line halfway up. When I couldn't get into the details, I grabbed a natural bristled paintbrush for crafts and dry brushed in the grooves, as you can see I'm doing right now. For the top, to lighten it up, I am dry brushing with a white acrylic paint. And as you can see with this one, I did get a little heavy-handed in some of the areas, but I really didn't mind it because I wanted an extra texture. I wanted it to be quite a bit lighter than the rest of the piece. And once I'm done layering it, you won't see it as brightly. Since these drawers are on the top, I am also dry brushing in the white just to keep it going on the ombre effect. I am also doing little patterns with the paintbrush. I don't just go straight across, I also go up and down in areas just to give it a cross-hatching effect. And these doors are at the bottom, so I am going through and trying to darken up the background and also darken up some of the areas that would be more shaded. I wanted to make this relief really stick out and make it look really 3D and pop. And here again, I am going in with my smaller paintbrush and getting into those details, really darkening them up. I had tried dry brushing some of the silver. The silver is Modern Masters Metallic and Smoke, and I tried dry brushing it on, but I really did not like the effect. It didn't have a dry brushed effect. And I remembered seeing a live that Dionne Woods from the Turquoise Iris had done where she used a rubber brayer to create texture with a metallic on a wardrobe. So I thought I would give it a try, and it worked fabulously and it gave the exact look that I was going for. So I just rubbed the brayer over all the details on all the sides, the front. And you'll notice I did not do the dry brushing on the sides of the buffet because I was just experimenting at this point and I didn't want to go through all the effort of the dry brushing and have it look really bad. So I opted to just work on the front, and if it did what I wanted it to do, then I was going to do everything on the sides. With this technique, you don't want to go all in the same direction. You want it to go up and down, you want to go side to side. That way the design that the brayer puts out will be different and it will look more organic and less painted. And here I'm just doing my second layer of dry brushing. Since I had put the metallic over, it had lightened up a lot of areas. And I just wanted a really layered, old, tarnished silver look. So I am just going in with a second coat of In this stage, I am also going in with the detailed brush, and in the details of the carvings, I am going in and really darkening those up as well, and just adding extra shading to really give it depth. Here I am doing my second coat of the white, just really making sure I work it in and lighten up that area. And then on this middle drawer where the 3 different colors meet together, I am just reworking it and making sure everything looks nice and cohesive and artistic. And in the final pictures of the video, you will see that there was some things I did off camera. Due to the low temperatures in my garage, my camera was having a hard time keeping a charge, so I went through about 14 batteries trying to make this video. And after the 14th one, I just decided, you know what, it doesn't matter if you guys see the inside painting, because I'm just painting it a teal. So in one of the drawers, I also replaced the original felt that was kind of really gross and getting moldy with some new felt. And here I am just dry brushing the sides, getting them to look similar to the front. I'm starting with the black and working my way up to the white. And here I'm just doing my last 2 coats using polyacrylic. I am using gloss polyacrylic because of the metallic paint that I used. That in and of itself is a top coat, but because I am using it in conjunction with other paints that do not have a top coat, I opted to top coat the entire thing. Normally you wouldn't, just because with metallics it's not good to put a top coat over them because it can kind of change the sheen, but since this was a gloss, it did not change the sheen at all. I also let these dry 24 hours in between each coat, just due to the cold temperatures. Here I am showing how I changed up the color of the hardware. I am using Rub and Buff, which is a finishing wax. I first degreased them and then I dried them, and now I am going over them with a Q-tip and some Rub and Buff. That way the Rub and Buff doesn't get down into the grooves and you have more of a shadowing where there is detail. I think I let these dry for about 30 minutes, and then I went back over with a cloth, or in my case I just used some paper towels that didn't have any lint or grime on them, and you just buff out the areas. My eldest thought you would want to meet our male cat. This is Dominic. Right there, close and personal to the camera. My eldest had found a spider, and that is so much more entertaining than painting, I guess. I don't know, at least for my boys. And here my eldest thought you guys would want to meet our female cat. Her name is Penny.
Go. Stop it! Stop it, back out. I'm honestly not supposed to be in this.